at the RC Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Serpent SRX8 GTe long wheelbase. Bag 8, this steering assembly. So let's get started. Be careful when opening up the small bags. There are a lot of small parts, so you don't want to lose anything. Alright, so first things we're going to need. I'm going to set the chassis aside for now since we don't need it right away. We're going to need this piece. We're going to need this piece, our spring, our collar, our M2x10 screw, and looks like it's kind of hard to see in the picture, but it looks like it's this foam piece that we need here. So we just need this piece. I don't think we need this piece here. All right, so trim any of these pieces if necessary. Okay, so we're going to insert this aluminum piece from the top, and you'll see that there's a hex on top for this to kind of sit nicely flush. Next, we're going to install the second piece to the servo saver. So these two pieces actually don't want to go together. It looks like the diameters are a little off. So I'm just going to trim the edge on both sides if I can, just a little bit, just to help get it started. There we go. So the orientation is going to be like so. Alright, so the orientation is going to be like so. The hex portion is going to be facing up. We're going to install this aluminum piece so it sits nice and flush. And then the second portion of the servo saver is going to install like so. Next, we're going to install our spring. We're going to install the foam cover to the spring. It's kind of nice to do that. Probably help protect it from dirt and such. Next, we're going to install our nut. So I think the best way to do this is to face it down, and probably won't start until you actually apply some pressure. So okay, so it wasn't too hard to get it started. So it looks like it's started, and the preload is going to be, it shows 4.5 millimeters. And I'm going to go ahead and install the M2x10 box head screw with a little bit of blue Loctite, since it is going into aluminum. I'm just going to go ahead and install it. I'm not going to tighten it down yet. I'm just going to get the head shouldered up at 4.5 millimeters measured. So go ahead and tighten this down. and right at 4.5 millimeters. So you can go ahead and tighten that screw down. I'm not going to tighten it down too much. Don't want to have it too tight where it might end up breaking that screw since it is pretty small. All right. So that was step 26.1. We have this piece ready. Now we need this piece. Looks like the bearings are already installed, nice and smooth. We're going to need two 3x6 by 0.5 washers. We're going to need two M3 by 12 button head screws, two M3 nylock nuts, and our other portion of our steering assembly. So there's a larger side and a smaller side. So we're going to install this side facing up, and the way that you know this side that's facing up is that there's a channel that's milled out. This side is flat. We want the channel that's milled out facing up. So we're going to put our 3x6 by 0.5 washer. We're going to install our M3 by 12 screw. It's going to go ahead and go through that washer like so. And then on the bottom, there's a spot for the nylock nut to sit in. So we don't actually have to hold back up. The nylock nut gets captured. And we can just go ahead and tighten down until you feel that nylock nut shoulder up. And everything moves nice and smooth under its own weight. That's what we want. And we can see that the threads are in the nylock in the nut, so we don't have to worry about it backing out. We can do this side. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to have our washer. We're going to have our M3 by 12 screw go through like so. And then same thing on this side. We have a little cutout for that nylock nut to go in. And it gets captured, and we don't have to hold back up, and just tighten down until you feel the screw shoulder up. There it is. And everything moves nice and smooth under its own weight. And that's exactly what we want. All right, now we can assemble our steering track rods. So basically the steering turnbuckles. So we need our turnbuckles. We need our rod ends, which we're going to trim in a second. And we're going to need, for now, 2 balls. And these balls, the ones that are in the bag, are all the same. So let's trim if necessary. So again, we see that the right hand threads are on the side that have the notch. So we're going to have the right side of the vehicle, left side of the vehicle. And it looks like the outside turnbuckle is going to be this one here, and the inside turnbuckle is going to be this straight one. So there we go. And we're going to install these like so. Okay, so we have our right turnbuckle and our left turnbuckle. So let's put some oil on these threads and put these together. Right, not worried too much about the total length right now. There's supposed to be 16 millimeters between the two rod ends, but I'll worry about that once it's on the car itself. So now what we can do is install the balls. And from our previous step, notice that there's a slightly larger end and a slightly smaller end. So go ahead and install using the larger end. So now we can install these onto our steering assembly. So we need these little inserts. They're hexagonal, kind of see here. And so we need 2 of those, and we're going to need 2 M3x20 flathead screws. We're also going to need 2 M3 nylock nuts. So we're going to install these aluminum inserts into the hexagonal holes in the steering assembly. It's a pretty tight fit. I think the sizing may be off a bit, so I may need to use, yeah. So I had to use my shock pliers to get them into place, but so there's one. So looks like it installs like so. Front of the vehicle, rear of the vehicle, right hand side. So this was our right side turnbuckle. Notches on the right hand side. And then this is our left side turnbuckle. So we can go ahead and install this. With our nylock on the bottom. Okay, it looks like that screw is kind of on the short side. I think the screw doesn't look like it's quite in the nylock. So I think I would put some blue Loctite on that thread just to be on the safe side. I think that screw probably needs to be 2 millimeters longer. All right, so that's step 27.2. We can grab our chassis and we can install the steering assembly onto the chassis. So we're going to need these 2 pieces here. Looks like they're made out of steel, kind of like a bronze color. So we need 2 of those. We're going to need 2 M4x10 flathead screws. So let's go ahead and install these posts first. The posts are going to install in these cutouts here in the chassis, and there's only one way to install them with the flats. I mean, they sit nicely in those holes. So we're going to install it using the 2 M4x10 screws, and we're going to install it with some blue Loctite. So now we can install this assembly, but first we need to install 2 6x10x3 bearings. So those install on the posts themselves. And we're going to go ahead and install our string assembly, like so. Just slide them onto the posts, and they should sit on top of those bearings. And then we're going to take 2 more bearings and install them on the shafts on the top. Now we need to install the balls into the rod ends, and the way that the balls are going to install are with the large flange side facing up. So we're going to need 2 3 by 7.5 by 1 washers on each side, so 2 per side. 2 here. We're going to need these 3 by 7.5 by 1 conical washers. They're going to be like this. So I need 1 on each side. We're going to need M3 by 20 flathead screws and 2 M3 flanged nylock nuts per side. So how we're going to install this is we're going to have our M3 by 20 flathead screw, and it's going to go through the stack of washers. It's going to be like this. You have your conical washer on top with your 2 3 by 7.5 by 1 washer, like so. So that goes on top of the steering arm, and then we have our flanged M3 nylock nut on the bottom. The thread is going through the nylock, so we're good to go. Same thing on this side. So it's going to look like that. Okay. Step 29. We're going to need these 2 black conical type washers. So these conical washers have a little cutout, you can see there. So this is actually the side that faces down. The large flat side will face up. So these actually go over the posts right here and right here. And those will hold onto the bearings. We need our front carbon fiber brace, and we're going to need 4 M4 by 10 flathead screws on the front. They're going to install in these 4 holes, and we need 2 M3 by 12 button head screws that are going to attach in the back in these 2 holes. And since everything's going into aluminum, we're going to put some blue Loctite on everything. And it's going to install like so. Before we forget, gotta get the turnbuckles to the proper length, which is 16 millimeters. So we can go ahead and do that. Right at 16. All right, so that concludes bag 8, the string assembly. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next video, which is bag 9. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks.